Hey everyone, it's your host Freya. The NFL can take you to some pretty unexpected places. Today, we're going to visit a city famous for space exploration, another famous for one of the world's greatest car races, a Florida city on the Atlantic coast, and a city known around the world for country music. Somehow, all four are part of the same NFL division. Welcome to the AFC South. The AFC South includes the Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Tennessee Titans. Geographically, this is a fascinating division. It stretches from Texas in the southwest to Florida in the southeast, with Indiana and Tennessee in between. And like the NFC South, the AFC South is a relatively young division. It was created in 2002 when the NFL reorganized its divisions after expanding to 32 teams. That reorganization also changed the history of one of the teams we're going to meet today. So let's get started in Houston, Texas. Houston is one of the largest and most important cities in the southern United States. It's famous for its energy industry, particularly oil and natural gas. But there's another part of Houston's identity that's known around the world: space exploration. The nearby Johnson Space Center has been an important part of NASA's human spaceflight program for decades. Houston even became famous for the phrase, "Houston, we have a problem," which came from the Apollo 13 mission. So Houston is a city associated with both energy and space, and its NFL team is one of the youngest franchises in the league. The Houston Texans began playing in 2002, but Houston had actually had an NFL team before. That team was the Houston Oilers. The Oilers eventually moved to Tennessee in the 1990s, leaving Houston without an NFL team for several years. When the Texans arrived, the city finally had professional football again. The Texans are an example of what we call an expansion team, a new team that joins an existing sports league when the league grows or expands. The Texans are one of the NFL's most recent expansion teams, and their arrival helped complete the league's current 32-team structure. Today, the Texans are still building their history. They don't have the century of tradition associated with teams like the Packers or Bears. And that's part of what makes them interesting. We're watching a football tradition develop in real time. Now let's travel northeast to Indianapolis, Indiana. At first, Indianapolis might seem like an unusual member of a southern division. Indiana is part of the American Midwest, though towards the southern portion of it, and Indianapolis is known for cold winters. So why are the Colts in the AFC South? Once again, the answer goes back to the NFL's 2002 realignment. But Indianapolis has something that makes it a perfect part of this episode: cars. Every year, Indianapolis hosts the Indianapolis 500, or Indy 500, one of the most famous automobile races in the world. For one weekend each May, hundreds of thousands of people gather at Indianapolis Motor Speedway to watch drivers race 500 miles around a huge oval track. The race has been part of Indianapolis culture for more than a century. So in Indianapolis, you have two enormous sporting traditions: the Colts and the Indy 500. The Colts themselves have a fascinating history. The franchise originally played in Baltimore before moving to Indianapolis in 1984. That move was controversial and deeply painful for many Baltimore fans. But in Indianapolis, the team found a new home. One of the greatest chapters in that history came with quarterback Peyton Manning. Manning played in Indianapolis for more than a decade and helped transform the Colts into one of the NFL's most successful teams. He eventually led the team to a Super Bowl championship, and today he's one of the most recognizable former players in the NFL. Indianapolis shows us something important about American sports. A city's identity can come from more than one sport. For many people in Indianapolis, football season belongs to the Colts, but spring belongs to the Indianapolis 500. Now let's head south to Florida. Jacksonville is located in northeastern Florida, along the St. Johns River and close to the Atlantic Ocean. It's very different from Miami or Orlando. Jacksonville has a more relaxed coastal identity with beaches, waterways, and a strong connection to outdoor life. The Jaguars joined the NFL in 1995, making them another of the league's younger franchises. And their name fits the region. The jaguar is a powerful big cat native to parts of Central and South America, although wild jaguars are extremely rare in the U.S. today. The team has developed a particularly strong identity among local fans through the word Duval. Duval County is the county that includes Jacksonville, and Jaguars fans often shout Duval during games. It's a simple example of how American sports fans turn the name of a place into a symbol of community. Jacksonville has often been viewed as an underdog in the NFL, especially compared with larger and more famous football cities. But that can create a strong sense of loyalty. Fans aren't simply supporting a famous national brand, they're supporting their city. Our final stop is Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville is famous for music. It's known as Music City, and it's one of the world's most important centers for country music. Walk through Nashville and you'll find recording studios, live music venues, and the famous honky-tonks of Broadway, and way too many bachelorette parties. But Nashville also has a fascinating football history. Remember the Houston Oilers? When the franchise left Houston, it moved to Tennessee. At first, the team was still called the Oilers. Eventually, the franchise became the Tennessee Titans. So today's Titans are directly connected to the old Houston Oilers. That creates a fascinating connection between two teams in the AFC South. The Texans were created to replace the team Houston lost, while the Titans are the continuation of that original Houston franchise. The Titans also have one of the NFL's most recognizable stadium traditions. Their home is in Nashville, right beside the Cumberland River, and the team's identity has become closely connected with Tennessee itself. The name Titans was chosen to reflect strength and the city's nickname, Athens of the South. And there's an interesting cultural connection here. Nashville is famous for music, but Tennessee also has a deep football tradition at the college level. So the Titans are part of a state where football and music are both major parts of everyday culture. And that brings us to the thing I find most interesting about the AFC South. These four teams represent four very different places. Houston gives us energy, space exploration, and a relatively young NFL franchise. Indianapolis gives us football and the incredible tradition of the Indianapolis 500. Jacksonville gives us Florida's Atlantic coast and a strong local identity built around Duval County. And Nashville gives us Music City, country music, and the unusual history of a team that began its life as the Houston Oilers. The division itself is also interesting because its rivalries are still developing. The Titans and Texans have an especially complicated relationship because of their shared franchise history. The Colts and Titans have been division rivals for decades. and Jacksonville has gradually developed rivalries with all three of its opponents as the Jaguars have established themselves in the league. Unlike some NFL divisions where rivalries stretch back more than a century, the AFC South is still creating those traditions. That's what makes it fun to watch. It's also one of the more unpredictable divisions in the NFL. Teams rise and fall quickly, young players can change the balance of power, and a division that looks one way this season can look completely different next season. And perhaps that's the best way to understand the AFC South. It's a division built around change. Houston is a young NFL city. Indianapolis combines an old racing tradition with modern football. Jacksonville represents a growing coastal city. And Nashville has transformed from a regional music center into an internationally recognized city. There are plenty of underdog stories in the AFC South too. Yet another thing that makes this division so interesting. The teams may not have the oldest, strongest histories in the NFL, but they're creating new stories every season. And that's a common thread throughout this series. Football isn't just about the players on the field, the games that they play. It's also about the cities they represent. It's about the history behind those cities, the traditions their fans create, and the things that make each region of the United States unique. So now I'm curious, which AFC South city would you like to visit the most? Houston for NASA and the energy industry, Indianapolis for the Indianapolis 500, Jacksonville for the beaches and nature, or Nashville for the music? Let me know. Thanks for listening to the Sharing English podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a rating or review, and share the podcast with a friend who's also learning English. You can find out more about me and the podcast at our website, www.sharing-english.com. New episodes of the Sharing English podcast are available weekly wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, let me know, what topics are you interested in hearing more about? Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep sharing English.